Hello and welcome back to the third part of this trilogy, which is 3 ways to reduce overwhelm for visibility. So when you're looking to be visible, when you're looking to put yourself out there, what are some of the ways that you can help to reduce overwhelm? Now, obviously, it'd be remiss for me to not start off by saying there are so many different factors. You are unique, and there are different combinations. I often liken it to a Rubik's Cube, where a couple of clicks, it looks all colourful, it looks messy, it looks like it's nowhere near finished, but a couple of clicks and it all drops into place. Hope that resonates with you. So for today, 3 ways to reduce overwhelm when you're being visible. Now, why am I talking about this topic? As a visibility specialist, cie HIV𝗹𝗶𝗲, the visibility queen, known as the queen of being seen since 2010. It doesn't matter whether I'm speaking to employees and professionals within corporations, whether I am talking to people through lunch and learns, whether I'm speaking to the author who's written the book or the books and wants to get them out there and in front of more people and wants to build their own personal brand, whether it's the CEO, business owning founder who is looking to grow or scale their company. This theme runs all the way through. I need to stop saying I don't care, because I do care, but it doesn't matter whether you are getting started, got a side hustle and a job, or whether you're earning multiple, like 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures. I've actually had dealings now with companies and had clients who have been from 0 figures to multiple 9 figures. I have to count all those zeros in my head. So big brands, small brands. And at some point, in some stage, we all get hit by the touch of overwhelm. So I wanted to talk about this and include this in the trilogy. I think it's a really important factor. So the first thing is, I find that when people are overwhelmed, they make the assumption that nobody else is overwhelmed, that it's just them. It's just happening to them. And that's not necessarily true. Everybody at any time, given time, whether they would say it out loud or not, feels like, oh, there's a lot to do. The difference between those who navigate this really well and those who might like pause themselves or stop is that some people get so overwhelmed they literally go into paralysis and don't do anything. Others will go inward, so they'll check in with themselves. So on the outside, it looked like they're not doing anything, but they're actually doing something. They're taking a choice to listen to themselves. And I've worked with a number of people who've done this too. Interestingly, other mentors and coaches that I speak to, some of them find that really unnerving because they're like, do. They're not doing anything. They're not ideal, and kind of like cast them on the wayside. But actually going inward and reflecting and connecting and checking out what your intention is and what your gut says is really important too. And then there are those that say, oh gosh, there is a lot to do, don't know where to start, oh my gosh, it feels daunting, and then they just get on with the first task anyway. So the first thing, which isn't one of the 3 official ways that I wanted to share with you, but the first thing I want to say to you is, if you feel like it's all too much, and you feel like maybe you're procrastinating at this point and not doing anything at all, not even going inwards to reflect, taking an action, just one action, is like the antidote to procrastination, which leads to being a really good cure for overwhelm. Pure? I can't speak today. And here's why. It gets you in a momentum of doing something that you feel led to. So that action could be research, which some people do, as long as you don't get kind of buried into the weeds of research. It could be looking up something to see how you would like it to be. So yesterday I started more publicly putting out a transformational program. Actually, at the moment, it's still at kind of 1-to-1 stage or 1-to-business stage. And one of the things I thought, oh, I need to do this thing, I need to do that thing, I need to have this in place. And I thought, no, the next thing I'm going to do is because it's not going to be clear to everybody, and when something's in your head and you're articulating it, which is why I do what I do, I love to help people get clarity on that too. So let me map it out and write it down. But when I write stuff down, I like it to look pretty. Don't judge me. I like it to look good. So I went and had a look at a piece of software and just spent like 20 minutes or so looking at, well, how could it be laid out? Could it look like this? Could it look like that? And then within the hour, I've got it laid out so that if somebody comes back to me and says, oh, I want to find out a bit more about this. What does this mean? What is it about? I can articulate it. I can verbalize it. But if they're not in the space or place to do that, and I know it's the right thing for them, I've got something I can send them, which stacks it out too. That was a small action which built momentum. I literally woke up this morning excited about the other tasks, not feeling overwhelmed. So just in case you're watching this and thinking, who's this woman flapping her gums? I'm actually speaking to you live at the moment, unless of course you're watching this on the replay, live on Facebook from my page, which is @visibilityvibe without the S. Which is Cenni Kovacs, the Queen of Being Seen. I'm also streaming to you live on my YouTube channel, which if you just type in @ and then Cenni Kovacs, you'll find my channel. I would love you to subscribe there too. And if you're a Facebook person, follow me there. Or you might be watching this on LinkedIn. And I want to say a shout out and a thank you to a few of you who have been almost like plotting the journey, following the course that I've been taking. Because you've liked the page, I know that. I know there's many more of you supporting it. LinkedIn shows me that there are a few hundred of you each day watching these videos. And I'm now on day, what day are we on now? Yeah, 52. Yes, I had to think about that then. We're now on day 52. So it means a lot for me. Not only that you watch these, even if you don't say anything, you don't comment, you don't like, you don't share, that's cool. But when you do watch, or when you do see this come up, that you just click the like button, that means a lot, because it's taken your time to do it. You didn't have to do it, but you did. So for that, I want to say thank you. So what are some other ways to reduce overwhelm? So as I was just saying a few moments ago, overwhelm can be when you get to that point of kind of like, almost it feels like flight or fright. And the fright has you freeze because you're like, I've got so many things, I don't know what to do. So I'm going to share 3 ways that you can reduce overwhelm when it comes to your visibility, when it comes to you raising your professional profile, when it comes to you putting yourself out there. And the reason that I want to share this is people often take the attitude with this that it's a screw it, just do it, you know, kind of like batten down the hatches, you know, fire yourself up, momentum, willpower, whatever the thing is, and go. But the truth of the matter is that even for those people that are able to do that for themselves, it doesn't necessarily lead you in the direction that you want to go. And what often happens, and if you didn't see yesterday's trilogy when I talked about burnout, it often leads to burnout. I've spoken and known business owners who, not even for days or weeks, but for months and years, have been at full throttle going for it. And they get to a place where they have very little showing for it. And I know that you could say, well, insanity, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. But often people won't allow themselves to be guided, to be mentored, or to be coached or trained on how to navigate the next step, because they're normally told through somebody else's lens. So some of the experiences that I've heard about and I've witnessed myself is that people often think, well, if I go to a coach or mentor, they're going to make me do this, they're going to get me to do A, B, or C. The visibility vibe system that was created in 2010, I was very conscious of what it feels to be a square peg in a round hole, how it feels to walk into a room excited and be like, hey, hello, and then feel like the outlier. To go into spaces and places because you know your work's brilliant, you know what you do is great, you want to get it out there more, but rather than have encouragement and support, have people pointing fingers at you and telling you, get out, you don't know what to do, or you're not professional enough, and kind of like rehashing any of those underlying surface fears. This has people go off and do things by themselves and by their own. And that causes a problem when you have a business that you're trying to run, a business that you're trying to grow, a business that you're trying to get like word of mouth to, or a company that is looking to expand. And in a traditional corporate or structure company, there are lots of different departments. There are lots of moving kind of like moving wheels, moving cogs, and each of those departments have a part to play. But if everyone's not on the same page in terms of the vision, it can feel overwhelming. This is when you end up noticing the amount of sickness, the amount of time off, your talent might not stay, you know, a big kind of like big overturn or big turnover. I don't know what's wrong with my words today. A big turnover of people moving through the business. And that's really heartbreaking for the business, because as well as all of that knowledge, information, insights, expertise walking out of the door, it actually costs. I read a report that talked about the fact that when a member of the team leaves a company or a business, it can cost anywhere around £75,000. I think it's about $90,000, that's US dollars, to replace that person. We're not just talking about the recruitment cost and things like that. We're talking about all the other associated fees. You lose money from the business just because there's no recognition of how to help somebody be visible without being in overwhelm. This is why I absolutely love working with HR directors, heads of marketing, and people that work in the marketing and HR space specifically, because they get this, they already know this, they just don't always know the best remedy to solve that problem. And mine is a very unique solution because it's based on the visibility vibe system. So it incorporates sales, value, empowered leaders. It incorporates ways to share the company journey, the company story, the company values. It talks about how to make an impact when it's not the company itself as an entity who's going out telling everybody about what they do in their proposition. It's more about the people within the different places. And yes, of course, there's the sales teams, which it seems like the obvious choice. They're the ones that bring in business. But actually, when it comes to visibility in a corporate setting, in a company setting, there are lots of internal staff who actually bring about a lot of visibility to your business that you're not even tapping into. And for that, you are definitely leaving money on the table. And you entrepreneurs, don't think that you, kind of get off the hook. For you, you've got the opposite problem. A lot of the time, you don't have a marketing department. You don't have a sales department. You don't have a finance department. So for you, you feel like you're having to do one of many things and spinning plates. And even worse, and I especially see this in my business owning founders, you have people on your team, some might be employees, some might be freelancers, and you bring them in to do some of those jobs for you. But without meaning to, you don't actually let them bring in their expertise and get on with it. You double book yourself and double book your time and double book your brain space and overwhelm yourselves, because not only are you now doing the things that you need to do, but you're also looking at, what are my finance team doing? What are my marketing team doing? What are my consultants doing? What's my operational manager doing? So you end up double stacking your time, which is really overwhelming. And if you look at the day one in the trilogy where I talked about anxiety, where anxiety meets visibility, you might actually notice some signs of things that actually make you anxious and therefore stop you from putting yourself out there in the world too. So here are some things that you can do. As always, there are 3 things you can do. Of course, there are more, and I might touch on another couple of things as well, because I really want to be able to help you to see through my insights the value that you can bring when you're being visible too. So one of the things that I didn't do for many years, I talked about visibility. I talked about the act of raising your professional profile, putting yourself out there, getting your work out there, getting your work known, getting your company known, your personal brand known, and all of those sorts of things. But I never really went deeply into why this was important until 2018. And the reason that I did that was because it wasn't always obvious, or people thought they knew from sound bites from other people. They thought they knew about what I do through what other people do, which, if you're ever curious, do have a look at some of my stuff. It's out there online everywhere. But if it's like, I think this might be what I need, but you're not sure, then schedule a call with me. That's the easiest way to move it forward. I'll very quickly tell you whether this is for you or not. I will offer you what I think is the best next step. Some people choose to take it, some people don't. They're like, oh, I'll go off and do it myself, and then they don't. And then I see them years later and they're still on that treadmill. So totally up to you. But one of the things, or three of the things to think about, which stops you from being overwhelmed, it actually gives you clarity, and it almost like smooths the path over. Thing one is knowing who you're speaking to. I'm not talking just about the classic marketing messages. I'm talking about who your audience are. And that's easier for you if you're a speaker or an author or a coach or a consultant. But when you're working in a company, in a corporate company or a corporate setting, you often think, well, I don't have an audience. Well, maybe if I'm in a meeting, you always have people around you. And when I give talks at companies or at conferences or lunch and learns, I talk about this a lot because it's kind of obvious once it's voiced and pointed out. But up until that point, people forget that people are always watching you, whether you're self-employed or employed professional. People are always watching you. So knowing who you're speaking to and who you're not gives you a certain amount of clarity, and also then helps you be able to plan with your visibility. So when I bring out, at the moment, I'm sharing multiple offers of things that I do, but I know that this offer, for example, isn't for A, B, and C, and I'll voice that, and those people will hear and feel that too. I'll say, well, this thing is great if you do A, B, C, but it's really not for you if you do X, Y, Z. This stops the overwhelm. When we don't have a deep clarity on that, what happens is we try to do too many things, and that contributes to the overwhelm. So thing number A is knowing who's around you, knowing who your audience is. Thing number two is business, all around your business. So what kind of business do you have? And is it the business that you want? The obvious example, especially for the entrepreneurial types, the self-employed types, is people often tell me that they want to be a international speaker. But at the same time, they'll talk about having deep family values. Maybe they've got a young family. They want to be around them. They want to be able to see their friends and family. They want to be able to do things locally. Trying to mix those two doesn't always work, unless, of course, you are speaking online, in which case you sit from the comfort of your home office or your phone, or your home. But one of the things that people do is they do something because they think it works for someone else's business, therefore it's going to work for me. This is one of the most overwhelming decisions you can make in terms of visibility. So having a clear idea on how you want your business to be and sharing it with the right people, because if you share it with friends and family, as well-meaning as they are, if they don't get your vision, they'll have an idea. They'll have ideas of how they think you should do it, how they think you should be, and this can knock your confidence. Every now and then, outside of my business, like mentors and coaches and cohorts and peers, I might ask, friends. Like I've got friends that have got background in sales management, friends who've got backgrounds in marketing, and I might say to them, with this thing, what do you think? And quite often they might come back with the answer to that question, but they'll input other things. I think you should change the name. I don't think this is right. But that's because they aren't part of the audience that I was speaking about before. So they're looking at it from a different audience point of view. And as a comedian says on one of her skits, this ain't for you. And that's nothing harsh, but it's not for them. It's like going to a child and asking them who should run the country and why. Now, I've done this with my nephew when he was very small, and the stuff that he said, I couldn't help but think, actually, that would be a very good idea. But that's not the audience that you would look to run the country from. Some might argue that we've previously here in the UK allowed children to run the country. I'll leave that to your political persuasion. But asking the wrong people for the right thing or the right people for the wrong thing actually affects how you run your business or the business that you work for. And that then can become an overwhelm too. A lot of people don't know how to untie and unknot themselves from that. So it's a very important conversation to be having, at least with yourself or with the board or with the team or whoever it is that you work with, and to do it regularly. And thing number 3, a way to reduce overwhelm when it comes for visibility, is how you position your credibility. And I can say this 101 times, and for some people it will land and other people it won't. I see a lot of people that go into the spotlight or are looking to raise their profile, and they come from a place of ego. And this does something that people don't often talk about. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily the ones that shout the loudest or anything else like this, but it has them be off guard. It has them do things like I talk about cringeworthy connections, which is not what we're trying to go for here. It has them send messages to a complete stranger with an assumption of who they are, how they live their life, who their business is. It has them not take the time to make a deep connection. So I recently received a message from somebody I'd literally just connected with, and anyone who has been around me or my world will know that since really kind of diving down into LinkedIn in the last 4 years, whenever I connect with people now, I don't actually send a connection message. And the reason for that is, regardless of how well constructed it is, there are like 90% of people that are sending cringeworthy connection requests, and people will often read the message and misconstrue it and take it for the worst. So I actually don't send anything. It took me a lot of time to get over my feeling that that felt rude, but it means that I will reach out and connect with people. So if that's the case and you go to send somebody a message and there's been no dialogue, why on earth would you make an assumption about who they are and what they do? The reason that people do that is because they're trying to show credibility. They're trying to show who they are, what they do, what they stand for. But when you do that, a conversation should always be reciprocal. It should be a bit like a game of tennis. 1, 2, 1, 2. And yes, sometimes people might quite literally drop the ball, but you pick it up again and you carry on. What happens when you make assumptions and cringeworthily connect it with people in that way is you have got nobody standing on the other side of the pitch, at least, or on the other side of the court if it's tennis, not paying attention. And you're like, before you know it, you've got all of your tennis balls on the court there, 6 or 7 of them, no one to hit them back to you and no one to pick them up or throw them back to you. You're just kind of shouting into the wind. And this does not demonstrate credibility. I can tell you this for a fact. 90% of the people that come to me or that work with me and see my credibility approach me because not necessarily of just the things that I do, but also the things that I don't do. So when you're demonstrating your credibility, even when you cut and paste messages, and yes, we can see when you do that too, we can feel it, you are now creating overwhelm for yourself because you're sending these things out. Even if you're paying somebody to send them out for you, you are not demonstrating credibility because you're not demonstrating connection. And underneath the credibility is a connection. People might watch this video and think, what a load of old tosh, not interested. I haven't created connection with them. I'm okay with that. Other people, and thank you to those of you that do send me the messages or put the notes in the comments where you say, thank you, either I really needed to hear this, or this was an interesting topic, or it inspires you to think differently, be differently, move differently in the world too. So 3 ways to reduce overwhelm for visibility. Make sure that you are in tune with your audience, that you're speaking to them in a way that they need to. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips on how to do that in a second. Make sure that you are building your business or the business that you work for in the way that it was intended to. keep in regular communication so that you know which way it's going. It's strategic. It's visibility that is strategic. It leads to sales. It means that you know your value. It means that you can share the relevant stories. It means that you can show up visibly and be yourself. But it all makes it a lot more smooth and a lot more easier. And then the credibility part, just because somebody else is doing it doesn't necessarily mean it works for you. Now, I'm not thinking that you have to be completely 100% unique in everything you do, but be at least authentically you. And for me, it's very quick when I'm having conversations with people and I'm working with them. I get a bit more behind the scenes of what they're doing, why they're doing it. It's like I can prescribe the right combination of things for you to do that feel like you. I'll always ask people, like if they say, I should go out more, I should network more, is that something you like? If it isn't, then let's find a different way for you to be visible that's more authentically you. So going back to the audience piece, a couple of things to consider. What is it that your audience are looking out for? They will be looking out for something. And I often say, this can be something that they're struggling with, something that they're worried about, something they've got concerns over, but equally it could be something that they aspire to, something that they're aiming for, something that they feel like completely driven to do, something that feels like a purpose. They've got a fire in their belly about it. So make sure that you at least gather enough information by listening to find out what it is that they need from you. Second thing is, we can sometimes feel overwhelmed because of the things that we hear. Now, yes, it can be people outside of us, well-meaning friends, family, unsolicited feedback, and them telling us what to do or how to do something in a way they think is better. But actually, the biggest way that we increase our overwhelm through what we hear is through what we say to ourselves. And for some of you, you've got this this well-oiled machine, so smoothly greased that you don't even hear your own voice when you're berating yourself or telling yourself you can't do something. So a bit like I recommended in yesterday is, next time you find yourself feeling stuck in some way, just hit the pause button and listen to what your internal voice is saying. And we all have this internal voice. It's the one that might tell you on a night out, time to go home, I've had enough, I'm tired. Whatever that thing is, learn to listen to that inner voice, because when you hear it, it will guide you as to what is overwhelming you. I know that might seem like a strange concept if it's not something you've done before. And if it isn't something you've done before, please try it, come back, report back to me. You can report back to me privately. Just send me a private message and say, I did that weird thing and here's what happened. You'll be pleasantly surprised. And then the other thing or reason that people can get overwhelmed, and I feel a bit hypocritical saying this, I've been working on a project at the moment, and if I was to show you the state of my desk, you'd probably be horrified. But when we feel overwhelmed to the point of not being able to move forward or move ahead or do anything, check how we're feeling in terms of our environment. If our environment is cluttered and you have 6 pens on your desk, 3 notebooks, numerous post-its everywhere, this is actually helping me in terms of the project I'm working on. But if I then move on to do something else, that clutter will have me feel a certain way. It's one of the most underrated tools. And I know that I'm connected to a few people on here who all they do is talk about decluttering and clutter. I'm not just talking about physical spaces, but different ways to declutter. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, those, 10,000 unread messages that keep going into your inbox, that might be, you might have the number on your phone that shows up, might be something that needs to be cleared by you or by someone else. A few years ago, I realized that having the number on my phone popping up so I could see like a count up of emails wasn't serving me. So I just simply moved it to the second page. That was where it started. And then I undertook a little project where I got all of my emails down to 10 from over 5,000. I actually did this for a client as well many years ago behind the scenes. So it could be physically decluttering your space. you know, tidying up your desk at the end of the day, which is what I aspire to do. I don't do it every day, but most days that's what I try to do. It could be a digital detox. It could be you're connected to people. I hear this a lot, especially with Facebook, you know, or even Instagram. You're connected to people and things pop up and they irk you, they irritate you, they upset you, they trigger you. Why on earth would you want that in your life? You know, why would you want to do that? And same thing for social media. If you find that it's, as one person described it, a necessary evil to be on social media, be on social media, but maybe again on your phone, move it to a page where you're not always kind of going straight in there. And if you want to kind of do a bit of a digital declutter, I highly recommend this book by Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism. Highly recommend that too. So have a look at your physical space, see what serves you. I've been talking about transformational change in the past couple of weeks, privately and now publicly too. If you are a trainer or a coach, whether you work for yourself or work for a business, and you want to up level how you provide lasting transformation and lasting change within the organization or the company or the business or the event or the day that you're hosting to, then do get in touch, because I have 2 spaces for you to be able to work with me privately in a capacity where we work through a 30-day container, but also we get to meet each other face to face in the flesh. And if you're in another country and you don't want to travel to the UK because of our lack of sun, it seems at the moment, then we can do that online too. But if you want to do that, ask me or send me a message about training transformation. Now, this isn't for you if you are deciding what to do in your business, and that's not to make you wrong. This is for people who know what it is they train, they teach, or they help people to transform, and they really love doing it. They want to do it even more, and they want to inspire deeper change within other people. We will look at your transformational tools. We'll sign a non-disclosure agreement, double-ended, so nobody will spill the beans online or publicly, and we'll look at the changes that we can make and the tweaks that we can make for you. I've got more information about it, so if this is something that's of interest to you, let me know, send me a message. We'll either jump on a call so I can find out a bit more about what you do. That's really helpful, and then I can make better recommendations, and I've also got kind of a little 2-pager that you can have a look at that too. So that's it for today. Day 3, end of the trilogy. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to those of you that have liked, shared, commented, sent me messages, and have received a lot from this. I adore you. Thank you. Bye for now.